Welcome to Building Tomorrow's Insurer, where we explore the cutting edge of insurtech and digital innovation in the insurance industry. I am your host, Nigel Fellowes-Freeman, and today we are diving into the world of claims with, some would say, a true industry powerhouse. Joining us is Sylvia Quang. She's the head of claim solutions for Hong Kong and Macau at Marsh Asia. Sylvia brings an enormous amount of wealth of experience from her time as a partner at HWL Ebsworth Lawyers. And she's been recognized as one of the best lawyers in Australia for 2025. Now, being the best lawyers next year, I don't know how that works out, but it's obviously over the next coming 12 months, which is a fantastic recognition to get. But I would say that Sylvia is not just a claims expert. She's a very, very passionate advocate for the insurance industry. You may have seen her at many industry events, and she's named as on the hot list of those insurance professionals by Insurance Business Australia. And I could not be more excited today to go deep into Sylvia's journey from law into insurance, get some of her insights on claims handling, especially claims handling in this very digital age. And I'm very keen to explore your vision, Sylvia, on the future of our industry, because I'm sure you've got some opinions, and I think some of your opinions specifically on diversity and leadership and how that's shaping innovation are going to be really interesting to dive into. So thank you so much for being here today. I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks, Nigel. Thanks for having me, and I'm super excited to jump into the conversation too.
Awesome. Sylvia, I think I really love to start at the beginning. I think if we can frame up the story and frame up you and contextually you as a person, I think that really kind of helps the context of the conversation. And so would you mind framing up where it all started for you, where you started in terms of maybe your journey into law, and then how that transition happened from law into insurance?
Yeah, so I actually didn't want to be a lawyer. I wanted to be an accountant because all my cousins are accountants, and they worked in cool jobs and overseas. But my parents said, no, it's a waste of your marks. You will do law or medicine. And because I'm terrified of blood and needles, I chose law. So I did a double degree at UTS. I did accounting and law. And because I felt like I was, really doing it just to please my parents, looking back, I don't think I really applied myself in law. And so I didn't really think about which area I was going to specialize in. I had classmates who were like, yep, no, I'm definitely going into corporate law. So I'm like, yep, I love litigation. I was like, I'm just going to do whatever. So to finish off my degree, I had to do some practical legal training. And I basically picked the first firm that would pay me. When I graduated, it was really tough to get a job. I was working for free for a few months. So I was pretty desperado. And the firm that I went into did mainly strata. So that was quite niche, but there was a partner there who was working in insurance. And like many people, I fell into it because that partner said, hey, I've just got a team member leaving. I need someone to take over their insurance file. Can you do it? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Because at this point, I started to realize that studying law and working in law are two very different things. I was really attracted to the problem solving part of it. And all the phone calls that I was doing a bit of debt recovery as well. So I had a detective hat on, which was like 40% of my job that I thought was really cool. So then I actually really wanted to learn about the different areas of law. So at that firm, I did strata, debt recovery, building defect stuff, and insurance. And it was interesting to me to see the different subject matter that was being covered by insurance. So I was mainly doing motor, but we were doing like product liability, all that kind of property related stuff. And then I started really going into the world of insurance and seeing what else was out there, what else is covered by insurance. And then I heard that Kylie Minogue's butt was covered by insurance. I was like, this is pretty cool.
That's very cool. And that is an expensive butt, so it must be insured well.
And so I stayed at that firm for about 6.5 years, and I thought, it's kind of been my home for a while, but I really want to get out there and see what else is out there. So I applied for HWL Lebsworth because I had a friend working there, and he was telling me about all the great things that they do in terms of, really rewarding merit. And they had a job opening for life insurance. And so I've never read a medical report in my life. Like I said, terrified of blood and needles. But I thought, oh, I'll give it a go. Life insurance, completely different to what I was doing. And I even said in my interview with them, I don't know what all these medical terms are. And I loved it. They said, that's fine. We just Google everything. So I thought, okay, cool. I think I can get along with these people and do well. So yeah, I worked in life insurance, and um, HWL has a really broad insurance practice and really large. And so again, I was given lots of opportunities to get involved with, liability insurance, professional indemnity insurance, and then, into the world of cyber. And so I was really passionate about insurance because I just felt like, wow, when I left uni, if I knew that there was this industry which had all this cool and interesting stuff where I feel stimulated, I'm never bored, and I've developed all these different skills like, litigation skills, advice writing, expert report analysis, um, because at the end of the day, yes, insurance is a contract. It's evidence of an agreement between an insurance company and their customer, but there's so much more behind that. And I think what I do really love about insurance is the human side of it, the relationships that develop. Um, and I also think that insurance is such a big part of society. There's a lot of projects out there which wouldn't get off the ground if they didn't have the security of insurance backing them. So I really wanted, excuse me, other people to see how rewarding working in insurance could be. And that's why I got involved with different organizations, and still to this day, in this role that I've now just recently taken up, I'm learning about captives and, other types of insurance, and getting involved in a little bit of reinsurance. So um, there's so much to learn, and, I've always been like a curious person, and yeah, some might say I get bored easily, but it's because I always want to understand why and how we do things.
So interesting you commented there around its importance to society. I think that's something maybe a lot of people forget in terms of how intrinsically uh, it is involved in so many areas of life, and that lots of things, like you say, wouldn't happen. Lots of property developments wouldn't happen. Lots of big projects, lots of infrastructure ways, all of the things that people take for granted are all kind of backed in from a capital perspective from
Hmm.
insurance policies. And so, yes, different perspective I haven't kind of maybe touched on or thought about enough, but it's yeah, you're so right. And can you take us on that journey of kind of how you went from those areas into claims? I know obviously you got a very kind of big passion for the claims area. What was the thing that made you go, actually, I really want to spend more time here. I really want to kind of understand um, claims, how it's transforming. Well, how do you kind of be part of it?
So I guess it mainly came out of, the work that I was doing at HWL. So we acted exclusively for insurance companies in my team. And initially I was working as what we call defense counsel. So where the insurance company has already agreed to grant cover. And so we go in and we help the insured customer defend a claim. And so, I working with lots of different customers and being able to support them at a time when they were being sued or allegations were being made against them, and being able to see the comfort that they had because they had, good legal representation, which was being paid by their insurance company. I thought, yes, people buy insurance because they might see it as a necessary evil, or, it's in a contract or something. But the time when they really see the value of insurance is when a claim happens, because, that's when they really get the benefits of the coverage, and they've got someone there to support them in a time, usually of crisis or of high stress. And so, it again was something that I fell into because that was the work that my partners were doing and which I was helping them with. But then, my interest in claims and how we do things, I think really got heightened after the Royal Commission in 2018 because there was such a huge spotlight on claims handling and, the community's expectations, how, some insurers, committed to improving their claims handling services. And then we had a lot of regulation changes as well. So introduce, introducing, more, I guess, um, more penalties or more grit into things like, oh, if you don't comply with certain regulations in relation to claims handling as a financial service, that can actually be really detrimental to an insurance company. So I think our community's expectations and view of claims handling really had a spotlight during those couple of years of the Royal Commission. And, unfortunately, there were some, sad stories of I wouldn't say bad behavior, but, it was a poor outcome for the
Just
customer.
the customer. Is there any, if you were to look back and think, there was a few key things that came out of the Royal Commission that were very, very positive on claims handling? Because obviously it was hard. There was a lot of impact on a lot of people, but you would hope that the outcomes have been positive for the community in general. Is there a kind of few, maybe, I don't know, three things that you think have come out of specifically at the Royal Commission in terms of claims handling that you think has been a really big jump in terms of outcomes for customers?
Yeah, I think the first one would be, the expectations. So,
Mhm.
having things like codes of conduct, which say insurers need to, get back to you every 20 days, 20 business days with an update on your claim, or, once they have all the information, they have to make a decision within, I think it's 10 business days or, yeah, I think it's 10 business days. And so having those timeframes in for those claims that fall under the purviews of those codes, I think gives some certainty to customers. The second part is I think it really gave people who worked in claims, the ability to say to their businesses, hey guys, you really need to invest in supporting claims because, and I think this is actually Berkshire Hathaway's, saying claims is the product. It's easy to focus on like underwriting and business development because that's where the money comes in, right? But if you don't also support and invest in the infrastructure to support your claims people, doesn't matter how many products you're selling and distributing, if your claims service doesn't match the coverage that you're providing, then they don't want to buy your product as well. And I guess the third thing that came out of the Royal Commission in terms of claims handling, um, well, yeah, I think some of the case studies
Mhm.
that were shown where I remember one of the case studies where like the recording of the lady who was affected was played during the hearing, and you could just hear how distressed she was. I think it reminded people about the impacts on the humans, the customers, when the handling of their claim goes wrong or it doesn't meet expectations.
Yeah, it's a very powerful force for good, isn't it? In terms of insurance
Mm,
is a thing you mentioned in terms of wanting to say to your friends and often when you're, I don't know, hanging out with some friends at a barbecue or something, and you say you're an insurance, often there's an eye roll. But I think it's so important to bring that to life, which is how insurance is so important at that time of need. And you're right, the claims part of it is really when it comes to life. When you're paying a policy, it's the promise of something in the future, and that's the moment in which that kind of promise is fulfilled. And I think that's why
mm,
it's so important. The second thing you mentioned there around um, improvement in claims handling and and processes, etc. We've seen a huge amount from our side of the world, our side of the fence, on technology, and technology specifically in claims handling, and uh, uh, from the platforms, from kind of AI assisted. There's a bunch of work going on in this area. Have you seen? Well, yeah, I'm interested in what you're seeing. What have you seen in terms of kind of technology that you've seen impacting any of the claims handling process?
Yeah, well, when I was in Australia, we did have some work or get exposed to different insurtech companies,
Hmm.
and I was hearing about the use of AI and being able to help insurance companies process those what we would call like low touch claims, where, for example, motor vehicle accidents, you can submit photographs of the damage to your vehicle, put in some details about where it happened, the other driver's details, and then upload or take a photo of the repair invoice, and then boom, you can get a claim determination pretty quickly just through an app. When I worked in a law firm, we didn't really get that much exposure to, or we I think we're a bit slow to really utilize technology in order to help us do what we do. And I guess it's warranted because yes, there's ChatGPT, there's Bard, but we're also dealing with sensitive legal information. So until that was a bit more secure, I can understand why, as a law firm, we kind of were a bit cautious with that technology. Now that I'm at Marsh in Asia, we actually have our own AI tool, which is
Awesome.
called Let AI. Yeah, so it's developed internally, and so all the information that it draws from is kept inside. And so, I've only been in this job for like 2 months, but part of my onboarding was the introduction to Lenai, and we have an AI academy to teach us how to use AI, what prompts we can use. We've got like a prompt engineering builder to help us really maximize the use of the tool. And so, the idea is to use LenAI to help us do things more quickly. So, helping to summarize documents, or, sometimes when you're working on something as well, you might get a bit stuck. So you can just ask Len AI, oh, so what would be some ideas, if I was to give the client an example of how this policy coverage clause might work, and it'll spit out some answers for me. Of course, you still need a human to read through it with a critical eye, to see whether or not it's actually far-fetched or it's a realistic
Mm.
situation. But it helps to cut down time. And some of my colleagues are actually using our AI tool to help them write emails. So they're, blitzing through the emails that they get every day because they've got this AI tool attached to it, and it keeps learning as you edit the emails before you send it out. So I think in terms of claims handling, it's helping to reduce the time that we spend on some of the more administrative, procedural tasks, so that we can do more of the human stuff. Being able to have the time to pick up the phone to our client and say, hey, notice that you had, a number of claims this month. How you going? What's happening? Can we do something? Or, do you want us to give you some data on where these claims are happening, or you guys can have a look at the processes of, what can explain the uptake in claims, because, otherwise lots of people are time poor. We have a finite amount of resources and energy throughout the day, and, if you're just churning through claims and just following the process, you can't actually take a step back and look at, well, why is this happening? How can we, mitigate, this trajectory that we're on?
Yeah, and to that empathy point you just mentioned, I think there's also an ability to have the AI tooling help with the empathy, i.e., you're hearing what somebody's saying, you're hearing what someone's saying either on a phone, on the phone, or in an email, and how can you kind of reply empathetically, if you've been someone that's been managing all claims, it's half an hour from the end of the day. You're pretty tired, and maybe you don't have as much empathy as maybe you would have had at the start of the day. But the tool can help making sure that these are the areas that you need to be aware of. These are things you can say to help with the
Mm,
kind of reduce the customer's stress and anxiety. What are they worried about? Making sure you touch on those specific pieces. And so I think you're absolutely right. The human has to be at the core, but how you can surround the human with tooling to be helpful in both efficiency and saying and managing and the right things, I think is something that can uh, power people up versus take away their job.
mm. Yeah. And for me, I don't read or write Chinese, but a lot of our customers here in Hong Kong do. So it helps me to translate, but also then translate what I want to say in English.
Mm, yeah, that's awesome. Translation's really kind of coming out as a big piece, isn't it? It's something. Yeah, some of the demos that have come out through some of the translations are really really interesting. Do you from your perspective, from a legal point of view, is there any views you have on maybe any potential benefits or the challenges that some of these tools can bring up?
I think um, I think that, because there's all these disclaimers and warnings, right, that it is a generative tool and it can be really
Mm,
powerful, but, we're still learning with it. And it does eliminate human error in some instances. I was hearing a friend talking about the tech company that she works with, where they actually help radiologists, scan through scans, and that can actually help eliminate the human error in the reports that they generate. But then we hear the horror stories of someone relying on AI to write their submissions to the court, and they've completely made up these case citations.
mm,
And so it kind of goes both ways. And from a legal perspective, it's just another risk. It's just another risk that people need to be mindful of, that they're not over reliant on it, and they are
mhm.
still looking at the information, the language used with, like I said, a critical eye.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's probably where the regulator comes in a little bit, isn't it? In terms of making, you can see that there's a pull at the moment, like this kind of fight between driving innovation, but also kind of the regulatory to trying to catch up, but not trying to stifle the innovation that's happening. And there's real kind of push and pull with the advancement of not just specifically in claims, but within the financial services industry more broadly, and some of this tooling, and how the regulator kind of steps in. Are you seeing? What have you seen any kind of views on the regulator, how they're impacting claims specifically, or your business in terms of what you're seeing regulation wise generally?
It's funny because, um, look, to be honest, when I was in Australia, I was concerned that the amount of regulation that was coming in and coming out of the Royal Commission was, stifling innovation and perhaps being a bit too restrictive. But, and that's because businesses and the claims people that I was working with had to spend a lot of time basically implementing the regulations, getting familiar with them, and also providing training and developing the frameworks. But now that I've moved to Hong Kong, it's actually the opposite here. There's not that much regulation. We don't have an Insurance Contracts Act. We don't have an insurance code of practice like the General Insurance Code of Practice or the Life Insurance Code of Practice in Australia. Um, and when I look at the way that we handle claims here and the way that claims are handled in Australia, it's not that much different. And so I kind of have changed my view that it's not necessarily regulation that stifles innovation. It does give it a framework, and I've kind of come to realize, well, the regulation, yes, provides this framework, and it just means that the people who are thinking of innovative solutions are being innovative within that framework,
Mm.
or the solutions that they come up with might be more creative compared to a market where, there's less regulation. because we don't have to think about ways of making sure something is, compliant with these rules. Kind of a free for all here. But, maybe those smart thinkers in Australia are actually being more innovative because they have more parameters to deal with.
They have to work within. Are there any other differences you've seen? And obviously you're early there. Are there any other differences you've seen from maybe from a broader business perspective or legal or claims? I'd love to hear kind of how you've seen the transition from Australia to Hong Kong.
Yeah, it's definitely been an adjustment, moving from Australia to Hong Kong. And, Hong Kong's such a cool place to work. It's such an international hub, and we deal with, global companies. Getting lots of exposure to different claims across the world, different investments and assets and so on. And, just the variety of people that we're working with has been, I guess, eye-opening. You've got really young up-and-comers, in different businesses, and, they're super cool and, have really great ideas. And so that's, that sort of innovation piece. But you've still got the people here in Hong Kong who I would call, the titans of the industry, the people who have had these, amazing careers establishing all these like institutional businesses in Hong Kong, and they're still quite traditional. I mean, there's definitely a few people out here who are really embracing innovation technology. Li Ka-shing is one of those people in Hong Kong, and he's investing a lot in different technologies and so on. But there's still people who work in businesses here who hang on to tradition. So one of the things that they do commonly here is exchange business cards. And I'm like, that's a lot of paper going back and forth. I'm like, just add me on LinkedIn, or I'll shoot you an email and you can have my email signature, or we still have clients who, won't accept their insurance settlement payment by EFT. They want a physical check. And so we've got to get the checks and then post them out. So, but that was something that, really attracted me to Hong Kong. It's got these high-rise buildings, like I said, innovative companies, really cool investments happening, and they still hang on to their traditions and their customs. One of my favorite things to do here is to catch the tram and the ferry.
Is it the Star Ferry?
The Star Ferry, yeah.
Yeah, I went to Hong Kong. It must have been a decade ago, but that's the thing that resonated. I remember is the Star Ferry.
Yeah, and for me, it's quite nostalgic. I, remember taking it with my family, like my mum and my grandma. And yeah, it's just, I mean, it's not bad. It's just something that I didn't expect, that, it also applies to the way that they work here. You've got, lots of innovative things, like I said, Len AI, but there's still those traditions that are being hung on to, like physical checks.
There's real kind of dichotomy. There's kind of both ends of the spectrum. Yes, but I think obviously culturally that's just really important. Some of those kind of traditional components are super important to how they think about business and life, and so that's super interesting. I'm going to take a little step left, if that's all right. And catastrophes are on the rise, in all senses of the word, I think. Across whether they're kind of nat cat events or kind of new risks. You just mentioned cyber. Obviously, there's an obviously really increasing cyber risk generally. So we've got these increasing catastrophes that need to be thought about. Risks need to be considered. The legal ramifications of those being considered, and so therefore the management of that becoming even more critical. Like, what are you got any views on how these catastrophes are starting to kind of impact claims? Obviously, claim volumes are going up, and then how staff and employees need to be kind of trained and prepared to start to manage this increase in catastrophe management.
Yeah, and I think the key words, were in your question, the training and the preparation. We have, as an industry, been through different types of catastrophes, and what, insurers are doing and, others who work in the industry are doing, learning, taking lessons from our experience from those catastrophes. You hear, a lot of the general insurers in Australia were training some of their other staff within other parts of the business to be able to handle claims so that when there is a catastrophe like another flood or, Black Saturday bushfires event, they can mobilize those people, get them into claims and help deal with that volume. So I think that's been, a great way that companies are becoming more resilient and, changing to adapt to these challenges. And, not only do insurers need to do that training and preparation, I think our customers do too. And, that's another part of the Marsh business, which I've been really interested in learning about, is our advisory work, where, I think some people over rely on insurance, or they think that they buy their insurance policy and they expect it to cover everything. But there's a lot of stuff that companies can be doing in terms of, their sort of risk analysis, developing business continuity plans, training procedures, so that when they're impacted by a natural catastrophe, they know, their people know what they're meant to be doing. But also in terms of the claim, they know that once, they've settled down, people are safe, they've secured parts of the business, okay, what do we need to start collecting in order, because we know that this is the type of information that we need to give our insurance company. And so it's kind of like both sides of, the transaction, doing their part to help claims, flow more smoothly and, help each other process it in a timely way.
Yeah. You mentioned that you haven't been at Marsh too long, but I'm sure you've got big aspirations. Obviously, you've got a big role to play, and so I'd love to understand. Yeah, but what are your goals? What are your aspirations? What are your what do you want to do from a Marsh perspective in terms of claims and claim solutions?
Yeah, I think volume is something that I'm really dealing with here in this role. I've never seen so many claims before, because, in Australia, and especially working at a law firm, we only really got called in for the problem claims, or, because otherwise our insurer clients were, dealing with the bulk of the claims. And so, the three main areas that I'm really working towards at the moment, or, a part of my priorities, is looking how to do things more efficiently. So, like I said, teaching our teams to use AI, or, what processes or procedures can we put in to help minimize some of the back and forth. So really looking at increasing efficiency. And then the second part is to get to know our clients better and helping them to understand their claims history. Like I said, trying to utilize data analytics and saying, okay, now that we've seen, a quarter's worth of slip and trips at your premises, we can see that, most of these accidents are happening in this area. Can we get some engineers there? Is it a particularly slippery part of the warehouse? Those types of things to actually help them reduce the number of future claims, so being prepared for that. And then the third thing, which, I'm hoping to do, is to really just reduce the timeframes that people are seeing, or at least manage expectations. Because, I spoke to some of the people who work here at the brokers. Hey, what's important to your clients? Is it like, the amount of money that we get back from them, from the insurance companies? And they said, well, all of the time it's not, because some of them do appreciate that some things are not covered, but they just want to be able to deal with their claim in a quick way so that they can then move on. Or they want to know from, day one of the claim, what's the likely recovery from the insurance, because, they've got to report back to their management and so on. So that, I think, requires, a lot of engagement with our carriers, our insurers, and really building on the great relationships that we have with them in order to be able to see how can we work better together for the benefit of our mutual clients. How can we, make sure that when we're presenting a claim to you, that, we've ticked all the boxes, or we've tried to get as much information as possible so that when you come in to review it, we don't have, 3 requests for further information, or, once we give you the information and we think you've got everything, you then come back to us 2 months later and say, oh, no, we can't actually make that decision yet because we need a bit more here. So, the efficiency for my team, how can we do things or improve our processes? Looking at data analytics, helping clients to predict their future claims or what they can do to minimize their claims, and engaging more with our insurers to manage expectations and work out how we can help clients process their claims more quickly.
Yeah, we did a pod a few weeks ago with someone who was one of the leaders at FWD, and one of the kind of primary things that he was talking about, it was speed of claim was the number one thing that their customers cared about. What, like you say, it wasn't amount, it wasn't whether the claim was going to get paid or not. It was speed of communication, and it didn't also matter on the amount, but just I want the money in my bank account so I can continue with my life and continue what I'm doing. That's the really important part. And so it's interesting that stayed pretty consistent, maybe with the kind of slightly different what kind of claims. Obviously, they were very much in the retail life space, but the space that you're going to work in doesn't matter where it is in the across the claim spectrum. That's the number one important thing. Yeah. Diversity. You obviously taken a leadership role, and diversity is super important, isn't it? It's super important in terms of, I think, impacting many things across decision making. I think here at Canopy, we have, I think it's like 12 or 13 different nationalities within the business, and that really helps a bunch of decision making because everyone has a diversity of thought. That diversity of thought challenges your thinking, and everyone has a different perspective on kind of how decisions should be made. Have you got any views on this? You got any views on how important diversity in leadership is, maybe specifically within claims innovation? And have you had any kind of general observations on this?
Yeah. Like I said, diversity is hugely important because, it leads to more informed decisions. I think we're all products of our own experiences, our, education and backgrounds. And when we have a room full of people who have had different experience, then you get different insights that can help contribute to working out, okay, well, what's the best solution? And so, it's not just diversity in terms of gender, but like age. We are very lucky to have quite a broad range of nationalities of people working here at Marsh Asia as well. And it's good to have that balance of people who are local, local Hong Kongers who, can get better insights from some of our clients because they're speaking Cantonese with them, but also the benefit of some of us expats who have seen how things are done in other markets or how things are done, in other companies. So I think it's important because it just leads to more informed decisions.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Sylvia, I could talk to you all day, but I'm really aware that I can't take all of your time, and so I want to lead into a few questions to wrap up, if that's okay. And the first one, I want to take a look into the future. I want to take a look into maybe the future, how you see claims in the future. What I'd love to maybe, obviously, the title of the pod is Building Tomorrow's Insurer, and so part of that we'd love to try and understand what do experts think. What do experts think about what the future is going to look like? And so I'd love for you if you could describe maybe your vision of what claims handling looks like for insurers and customers in the future.
Yeah, I think what I'd like to see is, more sort of what we call routine claims, like less complex claims will become faster, more automated, where customers can have more control and drive and really just be able to talk to their insurer to get those claims paid very quickly, because then that will free up the time of, claims examiners, claims handlers to deal with the more complex, more tricky situations, and be able to have people who have the time to, look at things from a bigger picture. And, I'd also like to hope that there will be less claims in the future. But, that's quite optimistic. Oh my gosh, I remember before I left that NRMA was running some of these ads where they had sprinklers out in the bush, and then it says, well, that hasn't happened yet, so we're here. So I would love to see that. I mean, it might mean that I'm out of a job because there's less claims. But I still think that, it just means that there will be different types of claims, different emerging types of claims. Like I said, cyber is a huge one. Those are really complicated and really fast paced. And so I think it's about bedding down how we handle and get claims paid really quickly for those routine, less complex ones, so that customers, insurers, and brokers, claims handlers, we can focus on supporting our clients in these new and emerging risks and claims.
Yeah, I think this CrowdStrike is going to be so interesting to watch how it plays out in terms of how that claim is going to play through, what the claims are, what the backing contracts are going to be. It's going to be one to watch for sure. Get the popcorn and see how this plays through. So last one from me. If you could insure one thing that is fun, unconventional, whatever you want, what's the one thing that you personally would insure that is fun or completely unconventional? What would it be?
Food fights. I love food, and I know they don't. I know insurers don't like insuring things like extreme sports, recreational activities, or activities where the risk is so imminent. But sometimes it means we don't get to do as much fun things, or I don't even know if they insure things like bungee jumping anymore. I am also terrified of heights, but I think if I knew that, I could at least get some insurance for it, then, if I have a big birthday coming up, I might actually do it.
Go and drop off a bridge in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Watch this space. Sylvia, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed it. Fantastic. Great well done on the move to Hong Kong. We'll look forward to cheering you from the sidelines on the work you're doing over at Marsh Asia. So thank you so much again for your time. It's been brilliant.
No, and thank you for having me. It's, great to have a podcast which delves into all these interesting aspects of insurance, and I hope people do listen and want to be inspired to learn more about insurance.
Sylvia, thank you so much. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. If you do want to watch the video version, make sure you do head to our YouTube channel. The link will be in the description below. And as always, if you would like to hear more from industry leaders who are pushing the boundaries in insurance, check out the episodes of our podcast series, Building Tomorrow's Insurer. Sylvia, thank you so much. Have a fantastic rest of your week. And we'll be watching if you're on the hot list next year.